First things first, the topic of today's discussion is API to NLP SaaS. And the biggest motivation is if you go back 1 year in time, I was only able to build APIs as an NLP developer, did not have much experience with front end. I dabbled a little bit, but building both the front end and back end and actually building a SaaS is quite a lot of work, because you need to know quite a lot of things and then put together and all these things, right? So I did not act upon the SaaS ideas for quite some time. Then I realized how we can operate on the right level of abstractions. By right level of abstractions, I mean using no-code tools or visual development tools like Bubbleio that I'm going to demo today. This is not sponsored post by any of the tools that I'll mention today. All of the tools are basically from my personal experience. I found them useful, and none of the tools don't even know that I am doing a masterclass, most likely. So it is just from my personal experience I'm recommending these. Awesome. So just a quick note about me who are joining in for the first time. I'm Ramsri. I'm currently based out of Hyderabad, India. I'm a lead data scientist with 9+ years of experience across Silicon Valley, Singapore, and India. And previously, I had a co-founded startup, pre-seed funded startup based out of Singapore. And currently, what I'm building is I'm building two things. One is question.ai. You can bring in any text and generate advanced quiz questions using AI. And the other thing is supermeme.ai. You can generate original memes using AI. You can just bring in an image and we will automatically generate a relevant meme to the image. So that's what these two are the things I'm building. Apart from this, I run a cohort-based NLP course as well, which I'll mention at the very end. I won't take too much of time. For folks who are joining in for the first time, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter or find my YouTube channel, all the things are available on ramsri.ai website. If you just go to ramsri.ai, you will find all the relevant links there. And without much talk, let's get started into the actual discussion. So today's agenda is this. First, we'll understand what is a micro SaaS, because some people, some of you might be aware of SaaS, and some of you might be, mostly on the data science side. So you might not be aware of what SaaS is and what micro SaaS is and all these things. So we will demystify all these terms. And second thing is understand actually what are the different components of a micro SaaS. Then we'll do a live demo where we'll build with Bubble. You will know enough that you can take a Huggingface Inference API and build a product around it. You will have enough information from today's talk to be able to do that. Then it depends on your exploration to add complex features and everything. And then the other two topics are how do you market your micro SaaS and what are the typical exit scenarios that are there with micro SaaS. Awesome. So for those who are unaware, SaaS stands for software as a service. That means you build a piece of software that does something, then you monetize it and you put it out as a product that anyone can use and pay maybe monthly subscription or another model, etc. So basically you make money with software, and that software is hosted and it's available for anyone in the world. So there are no other costs. Let's say, for example, if you're doing other things, then you need to have retail store, storefront, storage, and all these things. So the powerful thing with SaaS is all you need is your creativity and technology, and there are no goods to store like FMCG, etc. So that's SaaS, and you might be aware of many SaaS products that we see, everything from Slack to all the products that we see. But what is micro SaaS? Micro SaaS simply as the name suggests, is a micro version of the SaaS. And how is it different from SaaS, you might ask? So mainly it targets a niche market, niche, however you want to pronounce it from where you are. So basically, SaaS tries to attack mostly a domain and build something there. But what happens when it comes to micro SaaS is basically you target a very, very niche market. Simply in one line, you pick one thing and you do it very well. So do one thing and do it very well and provide that as a service. That's what micro SaaS does. And why does the word micro SaaS have importance is basically, unlike a SaaS business that might have 5 people or 10 people or even run by 100 people as it scales, micro SaaS is typically run by 1 to 3 people. Usually it might grow a little bit, but usually it's run by a small team, typically 1 to 3 people, and all of them have complementary skill set. What does that mean? Someone might be a product manager, someone might be a full stack developer, someone might be an AI developer. These 3 people come together and build a micro SaaS, something like that. And what's very different about processes is basically, as I mentioned, since micro SaaS is typically run by 1 to 3 people or a small group, all the processes are built for a small team. That means there's no big marketing team. It's usually one person who is handling the front end of all the marketing that's happening on Twitter and other things. Then there is only one developer who is building the full stack app. So there are no not external things, but there are no overhead things like maybe code reviews, pull requests, etc. Because one developer will own front end and full stack, and he will just do that. He or she will do that. And similarly, he or she, whoever owns the marketing side, will take care of that completely. So these are the 3 distinct things. One is niche market, that is do one thing and do it very well. Second thing is run by a small team. Third thing is the processes are built because they need to work for a small team. And one of the biggest thing about micro SaaS is pick one thing and operate on abstractions for everything else. That means if MLOps is not in your arena, offload that MLOps to another startup. You build models. If you're very good at marketing, then you just do marketing and let it be handled by another team. So you operate on as many abstractions as possible, picking a core. Now, the main thing is that there are a lot of misconceptions around micro SaaS. Most people say that you have an API, just build some front end and put it out in the world. But operating a real micro SaaS has quite a lot of things to come in place. So main thing is you have landing page. Landing page means the main home page when someone visits your website. What is it? What does it do? And all these things, the landing page. Then you have front end and back end. Basically the data storage and all the JavaScript, React, or any other front end where you use everything, right? And when it comes to AI micro SaaS, you have things like API deployment. You could use AWS or other services, or somehow you need to build APIs for your technology, AI techniques that you have developed. And the other thing is cloud credits, applying for all these cloud credits, because as a startup, you can get $1,000, etc., free credits from AWS, Google Cloud, etc. So when you start a micro SaaS, first you need to leverage these. And the other thing is payment gateway. Basically, the biggest thing about micro SaaS is about any SaaS is that you need to make money. So Stripe, Razorpay, or any other companies that are there, how do you integrate them, PayPal and other things? And the other thing is domain mapping. What I mean by domain mapping is maybe you could buy a website like supermeme.ai, etc., or question.ai on Namecheap and other things. Then how do you map all the things? Because your landing page might be on, let's say, question.ai, and your actual app might be on app.question.ai. Your blog might be on blog.question.ai. And all these three things could be handled by different companies altogether. Landing page could be on Card or Wix or WordPress. Then your actual app could be on Bubble. Your blog could be on Medium or anything else, etc. So all these domain mapping things are taken care. And terms and policies is another, where privacy policies, terms and policies you need to create about what kind of data you store. And the other thing is email marketing and email related things, because once I buy question.ai, I need to have Ramsri at question.ai, as well as hello at question.ai, all these things. So you can use tools like G Suite, etc., and register there. And the other thing is email marketing. What does that mean? Every week you might get newsletters, or if there are product features, you get you get in your email all the product features and updates and everything, right? So all those things also need to be taken care if you're building a micro SaaS. So doing all those things in MailChimp or ConvertKit, all these email marketing campaigns, etc. Now, what is Bubble.io and why is Bubble.io important? I'll mention. Again, none of these are sponsored. It's only from my personal experience that I found them very useful, so I'm mentioning them. So Bubble.io is a no-code tool for front-end and back-end. What is the biggest problem as an NLP or AI developer to build a SaaS is because you don't have a full stack developer friend, or you cannot go and hire a full stack developer. That's the biggest problem that anyone of you might face. And even I did face the same thing. Then I thought about it. What can we do actually as a developer without going through that complex learning curve of learning JavaScript, React, HTML, CSS? It might take probably 3 to 6 months and you are able to do that, but it's a huge overload on top, cognitive overload to learn new tools if you do not have in-house team. And the other thing is that not everyone can afford to pay another developer and get the features done, right? So one alternative that I found was Bubble.io. We'll go through everything about it in a short while. But in short, it's a visual development tool. What does that mean? Without writing any code, you can drag and drop interfaces. You can connect some things and create some flow so that that backend is created with a flow, that front end is created with a drag and drop API, and the database, everything is integrated there. So you, without writing any code of database schema and other things, just like editing a document, you can edit all the pages, and just like editing an Excel sheet, you can edit your database and other things. So we will go and get started. But just quickly, I wanted to say something about the landing page evolution. So before going there, let me show you landing page. What is landing page? Can everyone see my screen of question.ai? Probably one of you can unmute and just say.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. So mainly landing page is this, which is home page. So once you land onto the landing page or home page, it should be very clear for you, for whoever is the customer, to understand what your app does. So this is called as copy. By that I mean marketing copy or landing page copy, right? Copy in marketing terms is the write-up, the content that you create here. So this is question.ai's landing page, and it says what question does and who is it for and all the things, etc. So everything is built without code. Again, question.ai that you see here is built without code. And what happens is that this question.ai is on a platform called as Doric, D-O-R-I-K, Doric.io. It's on this platform. And when you click on get started, what happens is that it goes on to this app.question.ai. And this app.question.ai is on Bubble. It's another different platform completely. Now I will just show you in 5 seconds what question.ai does, because I want you to understand what can be built without code at all. All you see here so far, question.ai and this app.question.ai, everything is built without writing a single line of code. So you can enter any text here and click on generate questions. And within 5 seconds, you will get some high quality multiple choice questions created here. And you can see all the questions here. Today, the talk is not about question.ai. So I want you to concentrate on features that can be done without code. For example, someone does not like this multiple choice question generated. They can click on edit here. And you get onto the edit page. I'll just show you how sophisticated how sophisticated apps you can build without any code. So all of this is done without code at all. So for example, if you do not like this first one, security concerns, you can delete that. And you want to keep the environmental concerns at the top as the first answer, you can keep that. If you do not want the second MCQ completely, you can completely delete that. That's gone. So I'm just deleting all the MCQs. I'm just showing that it can be done. And you can add another option like option 4, etc. So basically all these sophisticated things, you can change the position. Finally, once you're happy, you can click on save. And you can do all the payments, etc. Basically, you can go into the pay page as well and do all the things. So this talk is not about question.ai. So let me get back to our slides. But what you have seen just here, which is editing all these complex things, showing them, as well as you can export as PDF, print, all these things can be done and are done without any coding at all. That is what I want you to understand. Basically, if you have some text and you use, let's say, HuggingFace or some other hosted API, and you can get back a JSON response. So this is basically a JSON response behind the scenes where there is a JSON list and all these things are listed with correct answer and all these things. It's just JSON format. And the JSON is displayed here in the front end, and you have all these capabilities that are done without code at all. That is what I wanted to first clarify to you. And without further ado, let's get back to our slide. So I talked to you about landing page, right? So what used to happen is that back in the days in 2010, you used to use WordPress, etc., to create landing pages without code. Of course, landing pages can be created with code, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all these things. A beautiful landing pages can be created. And the only thing is that if you are not a developer and you cannot afford a developer, then the other options for you to create a landing page on your own. So the options that are there for you are, for example, in 2010, I would say the ideal way is to build with WordPress. And when it came to 2015, 2016, all these tools like Wix, Squarespace, etc., they came into existence to make landing page creation easier even for artists and non-developers, anybody. And it is 2022. So I want you to pay attention to these tools, which do quite a lot of heavy lifting. So Card is one, Doric.io is one, Webflow is another. You can create beautiful landing pages. So I use Doric, and these are relatively cheaper, basically $30–40 a year. You can build your landing page. So I'll just show another landing page, which is supermeme.ai. Again, this complete landing page as well as the copy, everything is written by me without any code. So you can create your landing page and all these things. Now we come to the important part, which is, okay, you created landing page, which is basically the copy, which shows what your app does, who is it for, and all these things. But that's just one part of the game. Now you need to build the actual app, right? Now what we are going to do is the most interesting part of this discussion, which is we are going to take a HuggingFace API and build a full front end with logins and all these things. Of course, we are not going to get as deeper as question.ai and build those complex features, beautiful interfaces, but I will show you the bare minimum you can do to build an app. Then you can go and explore and build a full stack app yourself, like question.ai. So the question.ai, you see that everything is aligned, pixel perfect, and it's beautifully laid out and all these things, right? So today I won't focus too much on all the UI UX layout. We'll have some basic UI UX and all the functionality will be there. You'll know everything to build a micro SaaS. It's a starting point. Then you can go and explore and build everything. Now we come to the most interesting part, which is we'll use HuggingFace API and actually build an app. First of all, let's go to bubble.io. So this is the landing page of bubble.io. It's loading in a second. Okay. Looks like it's a bit slow unusually. Okay. So bubble.io, the best way to build web apps without code. Building tech is slow, and so get started for free. So basically you can build an app with API integrations and all these things, etc., without paying anything. Only when you want to go live, then you can go and pay to Bubble and get onto their paid plan. But it's free to experiment. You can build everything that I'm going to show you today. You can build that freely and without any code. So go to bubble.io and you can sign up here. So click on get started or login or get started for free, and you can sign up here. And once you sign up, what happens is that you get to this home page once you sign up, where you have your apps. You can see that question.ai is here, which is app.question.ai. So everything that you just saw, everything was built here, right here in Bubble, and it is hosted here, and everything is deployed here. Now, I'm going to show you how to build an app. So on the home page, just click on new app. We are going to start everything from scratch. So do not worry, just we are starting from zero and learning how to build. So click on new app. Then name of the app, let's say NLP SaaS. What kind of app you're building? I mean, this is not really important. It's mostly for Bubble, external or customer facing. New app. What's your goal with this app? Start a business. These are not very important, but let's click on create app. So this is where the magic happens. As I mentioned, Bubble is no code or visual development tool. So you can drag and drop interfaces and do everything. You will get a good taste of everything that I'm talking about. Just be patient. I'll show you how everything is built, etc. Okay. We are loading in a little bit. Awesome. We are loading your app. So far we didn't do anything complex. Go on to Bubble, just sign up, then click on new app. And once you click on new app, you just need to enter some details, and then you get to this home page. So you get this application assistant. We are building everything from scratch. So let's just click on start with a blank page. I just clicked on start with a blank page, and I'm closing the assistant because I know what it does. So simply at the moment, what you have is a blank page. It's like a canvas. That's it. And you have some things on the left. Since most of you are from data science background, I assume like very little bit of programming awareness. So let me explain what these tabs on the left do on a high level. So there is this design tab. This design tab is basically the HTML CSS part. So if you're building a full stack app, you have HTML and CSS, JavaScript and backend, all these things, and you have abstraction on top of HTML, CSS, etc. You have React, all these libraries, right? Sorry, I mean on JavaScript you have React, Next.js, all these libraries, and on CSS you have Bootstrap and other libraries built on top of that. But at the end of the day, design tab is where the HTML and CSS things happen. So you can click on design tab and you can put any button. This is a button. I'm just deleting it. Or you can put some text box. I'm just deleting it. But basically in HTML, you can create text box, button, and all these things, right? Similarly, you can just go onto the design and put anything here, image, button, text, input text box, and all these things. And then there is workflow tab. Let's get on to the workflow. It says click here to add an event. Basically, your JavaScript part where if you click any button, something happens. Or if you say upload an image, something happens. And when you update something and click on save, something happens, some call happens, right? Everything, the actions part that you see, which is actually the JavaScript part, that JavaScript part is actually in the workflow. And everything is abstracted for you. By that, I mean, the design tab for you is just drag and drop. Behind the scenes, some HTML, HTML, CSS will be happening behind the scenes, but it is completely abstracted to you. All you do is, like a designer, just drag and drop text boxes. That's what happens in design. In workflow, again, you just give some constraints, do X, do Y, you'll change some things that do X, then do Y, all these things. Behind the scenes, there is JavaScript happening, but again, that is completely abstracted to you. You do not need to write even a single line of code. All you need to do is almost connecting things. We'll get to that part as well. Then the other thing is the data, right? So typically in a full stack app, what happens is that you have your data stored on Amazon or Google Cloud, all these, not S3, I mean, MySQL or SQL databases, right? You can use any of those MySQL, SQL databases, DynamoDB or MongoDB, any of those, and store your data. That data storage is again abstracted for you. Almost it is shown as a just an Excel sheet with just the columns. So for you, creating data means there is an email, there is a modified date created, so like ignore these things, but the main thing to remember is that there is user, because you need to sign in and sign up users, and users will have an email, right? They'll sign in with an email or something like that. So that part is stored here. Almost you can imagine that this is like creating an Excel sheet with columns. Here we have 4 columns, but if you want to add any 5th column, you can add it as well. Just click on this. This is just like our database, where when you're creating some field, you will say what does that field stand for as well, right? So this is simply that. So the password is also stored, but it is hidden from us. So it is stored behind the scenes. Only the email is shown here. But at the end of the day, you can create new data types. So this is like a database table. This is a user table that is already there. But you can create a new table. Like here, you can create new type. This is, let's say, I have MCQs, or I want to store summary or something like that. I can create a new table, but I'm talking table, but behind the scenes, it is simply another this kind of layout that is created behind the scenes. So actually, Bubble is creating a database table for us, but for us on the front end, it is just we give a name and ask it to create something. Now let's get to the actual part. Now that you understand design is for HTML, CSS, workflow is for JavaScript stuff, data is actually the backend, which is store data and all these things. Now these styles are pretty much like CSS styles, and plugins, you might be aware of plugins. Basically, you wanted to do something, some task. That task is completely hidden and abstracted inside something called as a plugin. So plugin from data science world, you can almost think of it as a library. You want to do, let's say, topic modeling. All you need to do is pass some text to some library, and that library will return the topic models for you, right? Simply like that. You want to, let's say, integrate Stripe or PayPal or something like that. Instead of writing all that complex codes, you can just go code. Instead of writing that complex code, you can just go on to plugins, and you can install the Stripe plugin, and you can do the connectors. So that is pretty much it. So this is the layout. Basically, these three things: data is for full stack stuff, that is databases and all that. Everything is abstracted for you. Workflow is for JavaScript, all the actionable things that are happening. Design is basically the CSS and HTML, the visual things that you do. Now, enough of talk. Let's get into the actual implementation. So what are we going to do today? It's a very, very simple app. There will be an input text box on the left. You can enter any text there. Then you can click on the button at the bottom which says generate summary. And there will be another text box on the right that will show the output summary. This is the simple layout that we are building. Let's say you have just built a summarization algorithm and you deployed it on HuggingFace. Now, how can you build a product out of it? Now that summarization could be paraphrasing or some other thing, any of the things that you can think of. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just taking a summarization example, how you can build an input text box, show the output in the output, but have all the logins, database integrations, etc., all these things taken care. How you can call the API, HuggingFace API behind the scenes, all these things we'll see. Awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. So click on the design tab and just click on text here. So the text box. So the first thing is what we want is a text box at the left. I'm just dragging and dropping, and this is called as text A. I'm just renaming it as input box, because we need to remember these names to do all the JavaScript stuff, etc., that we do in the workflow tab, all the connections. So I'm just remembering input box. Now we have created an input box. This has some placeholder here, right? So I'm just changing that edit me to enter any text here. Awesome. We didn't do anything complex. All we did was to drag and drop the text box here. Now we need to show the output in the another text box. So, okay. So let's rename this as the output text box. Okay, output box. Then output is shown here. Awesome. So this, let's keep this as the output text box, and I'm just moving it to the right. Why I'm doing is that the actual input is not a text box. It's called as input. You can see it at the very bottom here, input forms. You can click on input and you can again do the same thing, which is drag and build something. So this is the actual input. So I'm changing the name to input box, and placeholder is enter any text here. Awesome. So we have done two things, which is we created an input box to enter any text, and we created an output text box. So this is an input box, this is a text box, and this is labeled as output box. You can double click on anything to bring up its properties. So I'm just double clicking on each of these. This shows input box and this shows output box. Awesome. Now let's do one thing very simple, which is whatever we enter in the input text box, we want to show it in the output text box. That's starter 101. That is what we are doing. And how you can do that is very simple. You can double click on this. Right now, it says output text is shown here or output is shown here, right? Instead of that, click on insert dynamic data. Insert dynamic data, and this dynamic data is actually input box, that is the left box that's there, input boxes value. So simply whatever is input here on the left text box, that input box's value is stored, it is shown here. That is simply what we are doing. And we already built our very 101 app. Once you build something, what you can do is actually click on this preview at the top right. Just click on preview. And this is the actual app. So what you were building previously is the visual interface and everything, right? And if you want to, from time to time, test how that visual interface looks, you can click on that preview and you get to this. Now what happens is here is that you can enter any text here. This is the input text box. Hi, I am Ramsri. Okay, you can see that whatever I enter here on the left is shown on the right. This is also actually text box, but you're not seeing it because it does not have any border around it. But simply you created some input text box, and that input text box, that input is shown on the right as well. Now let's go back to our preview. So we know that this is working, which is you enter some input here and that same input is copied here. That's working. Great. Now you are not seeing this because this does not have any border. So let's add that. So again, I'm double clicking it and just coming to the bottom, and I'm removing the style. Did anyone ask any question? Okay, maybe I'll just mute everyone. Okay, cool. I'm just removing the style for now, and border style, solid border width of 2. So all I'm doing is just changing the border style to solid and 2, because again I can click on preview and I'm coming here. Okay, refresh this page. So now you can see the output text box. Previously you were not seeing, right? So again, let's enter hi, this is Ramsri, and the same thing is shown on the right. Cool. Let's go back to our main page. Let me close a few tabs so that it's easier to navigate for us. So I can close perhaps this and this. Awesome. Awesome. So far we have built this thing. Now let's do one more thing, which is instead of the input shown on the output, let's try to do that with the help of a button. Let's click on a button. So all I'm doing is creating a button here and calling it generate something, and button name is again generate. Let's call it generate button. Awesome. So generate button, and cool. So we created the generate button, and what we want to do is when someone clicks on the generate button, we want to store our data from the input onto some variable, and that variable will be shown on the output side. We'll just go over that as well. So now I'm going to do one thing, which is I'm going to the index page. Just give me 1 second. UI builder index page. Okay, cool. So double click on anywhere outside and you bring up this index page. Index page is the actual page that you see. And here, click on this I button. What happens is that you can create a custom state. What does a custom state mean? Simply for your index page, if you think page as some storage thing, so for the index page, you're creating some variables. So this page stores, index page stores some variables, and that variables I'm creating, add a new custom state here. So input text, and this is text, and create. Awesome. So all I did was I created a variable for the whole page, which is input text. And now what I want to do is when someone clicks on generate, I want to update that input text. I want to update that variable on the page so that the output box is reading from that variable. So before doing that, let's do this. Double click on this. So here you see input boxes value, right? Let's delete that completely. And again, insert dynamic data. Index is the page. Indexes input texts variable. That's what we are getting. So instead of directly reading from this text box, we are reading from the variable that we created for this whole page. So index pages input text is what we are reading here. Now we need to actually go into the JavaScript part now. So you have this button generate, double click on that. And now click on start or edit workflow. Then you get to this workflow tab where anyone clicks the button, you get to this workflow. And what you need to do here is that custom events, plugins, actions, set state, and element is index, and custom state is input text, and its value is input boxes value. I'll go through this again, no need to worry. What we are doing here is simple. When someone clicks on the generate button, we are taking whatever text is in the input text and we are storing the text in the variable that we created for the index page. So for this button, double click on it, start edit workflow. Here what we did was we added a state. What we are doing is we are updating the state, which is basically the variable. So index pages input text variable is updated with what value? Input boxes value. That is the left side boxes value. That's it. So what's happening here is pretty simple. I'll just explain you. Any text that is entered here, you can enter any text on the left side box and you can click on the generate button. What happens is that this text is updated into a variable for this page, and this right output box is reading from that variable and directly showing it here. So previously we were directly reading from here and showing it here. Now instead of that, only when someone clicks a button, then we are reading this text here through that variable. That's all we are doing, nothing complex. Why we are doing this is because now instead of that variable, we are going to introduce our API and pass in the text. That's what we are going to do. Let's just preview this. So let's refresh this as well. Awesome. So hi, this is Ramsri. So previously, as soon as you entered hi, this is Ramsri, it was directly read in the output text box, because this output text box is directly reading dynamically from this input text box. Now we have changed it such that only when someone clicks on generate, you can see that only when someone clicks on generate, then this text is stored in a variable and this output box is reading from that variable, right? Again, let's say I'm adding more text here. So automatically you see that this is not updated here. This is only updated when you click on generate, right? This flow is clear. Right now, you write some text here. Only when someone clicks on generate, this text goes on to a variable and that variable is directly read back here. So as long as that variable does not change, this text is not updated. So this text is only updated when you click on generate. Now comes the most interesting part. Now we are going to add APIs to our use case. Right now it is pretty simple, where you are entering some text here, clicking on generate, and the same text is shown on the right side. But can you enter any text here, click on generate? Instead of the same text, can you show summary of the text? That is what we are exactly going to do now, which is the most interesting part. Just give me 1 second. Awesome. We are going to Hugging Face and Hugging Face models. Here we are seeing how we can directly integrate HuggingFace API to our product. So here, summarization, let's click on summarization at the very left and click on the first summarization algorithm. This is the most popular one. And you can enter any text here and click on compute, right? You might be familiar with this HuggingFace models API, where you enter any text here and the output is shown here. But what's interesting for us is this. You can click on deploy here and accelerated inference here. And this shows the code that you can use to call any text to this API and get the summary back. That is exactly what we are seeing here. I will regenerate a new token again. So as of now, I'm exposing the API token for you, but do not worry. Click on question and you get this. So basically, this is the API. So this is the API URL to which you can do a post request with this input. And you need to give this header and you get back the summarized text, right? This is exactly what we are going to do here. Now copy this API URL. Let's go back to, okay, great. So this is where plugins are helpful. Now in order to add an API to this, we need to add plugins. So click on plugins here, add plugins. And now I'm adding API connector. So the search is a bit slow. Okay. Wow. It's very slow than I thought. Anyways, it won't take long, probably 5 seconds or so. Okay. So as soon as you type API, you get this Bubbles API connector. Just click on install. Great. So we have that installed for us. Wow, it's slow, so slow that when I clicked on install, I actually clicked on uninstall. That happened. Okay, awesome. Anyways, done. So what we just did was we went into these plugins and searched for API and we got this API connector that is from Bubble itself, and we got this plugin here. And what this plugin helps us is basically to connect the API that we the HuggingFace API here, and we can use that in our actual Bubble app. So just click on add another API, and I'm giving a new name, which is HuggingFace APIs. Okay. So this HuggingFace APIs is a overall umbrella term where under this API name, I can add multiple sub APIs. So here is where I add the actual API. So let's call this summary API. Wow, it's actually so slow that okay, expand this. Sorry, I need to expand this before I edit this. So let's call this summary API. Awesome. Main thing to remember here is use this as action, and the data type is JSON. Remember that. So some API name that I gave, use this as action and JSON. Here instead of get, use post, and here you paste in your HuggingFace URL. And now what do we need to do? We need to add a header. So let's go back and add the header, which is authorization. Is this okay? The header key is authorization, and the header value is bearer token, all this thing, right? So I'm just copying as it is the value. Awesome. And private. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, let's remove this private term. Okay, cool. So here's the actual JSON that goes here, which is, I'll show you again. If you go to the HuggingFace, so how is this JSON formatted is basically you have this inputs colon and this long text, right? Simply. So what we need to do is inputs colon. That's what we are doing as well. And for dynamic values, you can give some text. I'll show you what that means. So what are dynamic values? Basically, when you're actually running the app, what happens is that you enter any text there and click on summary or generate, right? Then this value, what's going here needs to be dynamic because it will come from your input text box. So I'm just giving some random name here, and that is almost like a variable here. You can give under with brackets, and let me give some value here, which is let's say if I go to question.ai and I'm just grabbing some input text now. Okay, so all I'm doing is just grabbing some input text here. Okay, so in the value tab, I can add that input text. Cool. So I'm again removing the private. So initialize call. What happens is that it will call the API for the first time. As you can see, we got back in the summary text. Show raw data. This is where you can see it. So we called the HuggingFace API successfully, and we got back this text. We gave some long text, and that HuggingFace API returned us this JSON format, right? Great. Awesome. So we have the API connector working. That means this API is established, it's tested, and it's working fine. Now we need to do that in the front end. Let's go back to our front end, and as soon as someone clicks on generate, we need to take this text, input text, pass it to the API, get back the summary and show it in the output text, right? That is what we are exactly going to do now. So click on generate, double click on that start or edit workflow. In here, okay, let's delete this for one moment because we are passing our text. So element actions, plugins, HuggingFace's summary API, body. Okay. So as soon as we do this, which is, let me show it again if you just missed it. Let me delete this. So once the button is clicked, what we need to do is we need to call the API. So we go to plugins and we created the API just now, which is HuggingFace API summary API. Click on that. And now you have this authorization header and input text. Instead of this text being fixed, make it dynamic. That means insert dynamic data. And this data is actually input boxes value. So when someone clicks on generate, we are dynamically taking the input text from the input boxes value and we are giving it here. Awesome. So once this API is called here automatically, and what we need to do in the next step is update our variable for the page with the output from this, right? So let's do that, which is the next step is actually set state, which is element index and custom state is input and value is. So once you go to value, again, what we are doing is basically for the index page, that is the home page, we have created a variable called as input text, right? So to that input text, we need to add the summarized text from step 1. So result of step 1, first item, summary text. Why we are giving first item is because HuggingFace API returns it in a list. So in that list, you need to get to the first element, and within that first element, you have the summary text. That is the key, right? So the value is actually result of step 1, that is this steps, first items, summary text. So we call the API, then we get back the value and we store that in the index. Awesome. We have done our part. So what's happening again for your easiness is as soon as you click on generate, you take this input text, call the HuggingFace summary API, whatever is the output, you update onto the variable of this page. Why? Because this right text box directly reads from the variable of that page. So instead of previously it was directly reading this text, now it is reading the summarized version of this text because of the API integration. Let's preview this. And this is where let's enter some text. So let me grab this text again. I'm just grabbing some input text for us to try out. Awesome. So, okay. Great. So this is our main app where we can enter any text here. Let's do that. So we have entered our long text here. Let's click on generate. Awesome. It actually worked in the first go, which is so first thing is basically this text box is a little bit weird. So, but okay, let's fix that later. But anyways, what happened was that I entered some text like this, which was basically it's a long version. It is quite a lot of text with 2 or 3 paragraphs. and that is directly summarized into the output automatically. So the flow is pretty much working, which is you just give some input text, click on generate, and the summarized version is shown on the output. And how it is happening is behind the scenes, HuggingFace API is called, the summary version is obtained. That summary value is updated in the key value pair of this index page, and this is directly reading from there. So in short, we created the flow where you can enter any text on the left output box, and automatically the summarized version of the text is shown on the right side. Awesome. So we have achieved our initial flow. Now let's do one interesting thing, which is what are the main things for an app is actually having logins and sign up, right? So what you can do is you can directly easily add a login sign up to this page, and I'll show you how. Just scroll down here, and there is something called as an header, right? Here in the reusable element section, header. So just get that header and drop it here. And to implement sign up, login, and all those things, you do not need to do anything complex. All you need to do is just drag this header here and drop it here. Now switch from index here to header. And we got to this. So this is the generic header that we already get. So let's delete that. So I'm deleting FAQs and other things. Keep this one as it is, because this is a sign up or login flow that Bubble gives us automatically. So instead of Bubble here, let's just clear this image, and I can upload any image here. So perhaps I can go and upload some, I'm just uploading some random image of supermeme.ai here. So awesome. So instead of Bubble, you can just upload your own image here, as you can see, and the sign up or login flow is created. And let's go back to our index page. Awesome. So we, within just one click where we dragged and dropped the header, we have sign up and login flow. What does that mean? Let's just try it out. Click on preview again. So this was the previous page. And currently you have sign up and login flow as well. Let's just click on sign up or login. It shows up here. So I'm signing it for the first time. Let's say Ramsri at question.ai. Password is 12345. I'm just giving some base password, etc. 5, and I'm signing up. So all I did was I already signed up with just one drag and drop where we added this header. We already signed up. Now you might ask, okay, you created sign up, but what does it exactly mean? Now with whether the user is signed or not, then you can change these things automatically. I'll show you how. So simply click on this button, double click on this button, click on conditional, add another condition. When current user is logged in, when current user is logged out, this element is visible. So you can use this thing like current user is logged in or current user is logged out flow. And let's see what this does. All I did was I added another condition where current user is logged out, and I'm not making this element visible. Let's click on preview. Let's log out. So simply because now you have created a flow where, only signed up users can run. No one can just come onto the web page, input some text and generate some text output, because that button itself is not visible. When is it visible? Only when someone signs up, right? Now I already signed up, so let me log in. Ramsri at question.ai 1 2 3 4 5. Login. Awesome. So this button itself was not visible when someone is not logged in. Similarly, you can make this button visible only someone has paid. You can again integrate something like Stripe plugin, and then only when someone is a paid user, then you can make them run this, etc. But I'll stop here because it's already 7:45 p.m. and I think we did cover a decent amount of ground. The only thing that we didn't do was the data part. Basically, what you can do is, again, without leaving you with much, I'll tell you that again, you can go to create or edit workflow. And what you can do is, once this API is successful, etc., you can do make changes to data things, make changes to data, right? So again, you can go to current user and you can change current users fields. That means you can update how many runs are remaining, etc. Let me just quickly in 1 second tell you what I am talking about. For example, here the user has just email and other things, right? You can create something called as runs remaining, and you can keep it as integer number. Okay. All right. And let's say default is 10, etc. Why am I doing this? Is because once you click on generate, every time a summarization API is run, it is costing for you, right? What you can do is basically you can update the database. Simply what I mean by that is, you can again double click on this start and edit workflow. When HuggingFace API is done and the summary is obtained, you can go, let's do that again. You can go and go to the data things, make changes to a thing, things to change, current user, current users runs remaining. Okay, let's data things, make changes to a thing, current user, change another field, runs remaining. Okay, great. So what you can do is simply, let's do it again. Once someone runs the API, what you can do is you can change, make changes to a thing, things to change, current user, and what are you changing? You are updating runs remaining to current users runs remaining -1. So what's happening here is, let's say they can buy runs from you. For $10, you give 100 runs. Every time when the user clicks generate after logging in, you can go and change the runs from 100. You can minus runs, current runs remaining is equal to current runs remaining -1, essentially 100, 99, 98, etc. Similarly, you can have another field which says once the runs are 0, here you can add, before step 1 itself, you can add something like once runs are 0, show a pop-up for payment page, something like that. So this is pretty much what I wanted to show for today. You can integrate the API, build everything here with sign up login. You also have the database, etc. You can integrate Stripe, etc. I didn't want to go into that depth today, but I wanted to quickly stop here since we are done with the basic flow that I wanted to show. You can go ahead and build, learn Bubble and build full stack apps without knowing anything about databases and other things. You can build, host, and integrate your Stripe payments, collect payments, and instead of runs remaining as well, you can do other things like subscriptions even and other things. Now let me go back to the slides. So we kind of discussed about these things, which are the components of micro SaaS and marketing micro SaaS. So before going into these, okay, yeah, let's just finish these things in 2 minutes. We'll get to questions. So marketing micro SaaS. Now you build a micro SaaS. How do you do marketing? So basically, all the social channels like Twitter, LinkedIn, Product Hunt, Reddit, Hacker News, you can go and post about your app and find beta users and other things. Launch on Product Hunt to get more visibility. And the other thing is Google Ads, etc. You can do all these things. And if you have a newsletter, you can use newsletter audience to promote, talk about your app. You can run YouTube ads, Google ads, other things, and on sites like Indie Hackers as well, you can launch there as well. And just one more line. What are the typical exits for micro SaaS? So simply put, there's a website called as microacquire.com. You can go and list your SaaS once it has some monthly recurring revenue. MRR stands for monthly recurring revenue. Let's say 10 users are paying monthly $10, then your monthly recurring revenue is $100. And usually you can go and list your micro SaaS on microacquire.com, and then a buyer will contact you if it's doing well. You can put all the things like how much revenue is it making, how many users do you have, and all these things, and put a price, etc. Typical exits. So everyone talks in terms of what's your micro SaaS valuation is MRR. Let's say you're making $100 per month. So currently the value of micro SaaS is 100 into 12 months into typical 5-year window. So $6,000 is basically 12 is a 60 into 100, $6,000 is basically your current valuation. And if you're making $1,000 MRR, $1,000 into 60 is what your valuation that you can sell on microacquire for. And before going into the questions, all I need is just 30 seconds from you, and then we'll start with questions. So I'm starting a practical intro to NLP cohort-based course that starts on Feb 5th. That is next Saturday itself. If you are interested, you can go on to ramsey.ai/NLP and find payment options, etc. 16 hours of live classes, and it will be very interactive. Right now, the talk has been slightly monotonic because of the interest of the time, but usually I keep my my actual course and other things very interactive. Sorry for just doing a monologue from front to end for 1 hour straight. Now I'll get to questions and answer everything. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So can we integrate as many as API in a single window? Can we do it?
Yes. The answer is that yes, you can integrate as many APIs that you want, even 100 APIs, etc. And you can even create subfolders. We created a top level folder like Huggingface API, then created summary, and then we can create paraphrasing and other things continuously. Similarly, you can create others. So short answer, yes, you can create any number of APIs.
Okay, thank you.
Sandeep asks, sorry, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have only this question. Thanks.
Okay. So,
hey Ramsey,
yeah.
thanks for the wonderful talk. My question is, did you compare Bubble with some other low-code apps, or maybe, for example, we can build the APIs in Flask and then use Streamlit to build web apps? Although Streamlit is not low-code, right? You have to do some little bit of coding.
Yes.
But how do you think about it?
Very good question. So I have experimented quite a lot with Streamlit, Flask, and I've built things in there, so I know that what are the limitations to it. So basically, all the sign up, sign in flow, Streamlit also introduced session states, but simply put, you have to do as much work as a backend developer to do all the things behind the scenes. Second thing is that once you go beyond the regular Streamlit interfaces, you have to actually go and integrate HTML and CSS code to achieve certain things. So at the end of the day, if you want to do, if you want to build a real app with Streamlit, it gets to as much coding as you would do with front end and back end as a full stack developer. Now, when it comes to Flask, Flask is mostly aimed at, let's say, Python developers to build, but again, only the back end is abstracted with Python, and the front end, again, you need to build all the interfaces, complex interfaces that you want. So Django, Flask, all these frameworks. So for your first question, the thing is that Bubble is the most advanced tools. API integrations are supported by many other tools as well, if you think about no-code tools. But what happens is that unfortunately, the ecosystem, the maturity of all these plugins, etc., is not that great. So the best way is to start with Bubble and then experiment with others, because this is the most mature system. If you want to run really a 100 million revenue SaaS, even people have even raised 100 million and above by building apps on Bubble. That means you can actually build a real VC funded startup that is valued at 250 million, 100 million, etc. with Bubble. Because you need to have that kind of scalability built in. You cannot experiment with basic Streamlit and other things and launch a real world product that hundreds and thousands of users can use seamlessly, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Sriram.
I think, Ramshi, I had the similar question, but you answered it. And one
Go
more
ahead.
thing, I want to know, though it is not exactly related to Bubble, but let's say if we have to integrate something like this on Android or iOS apps, is there anything that you are aware of or familiar with?
Amazing question. So a lot of tools, including Bubble, we can create a mobile as well as app versions to it. So there are plugins and third-party tools or even Bubble supported tools that will help you create a full version app to release on iOS or Android from what you built on Bubble already. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thanks. So on this course that you have, is that going to be on the API level where where we're trying to build an application using HuggingFace APIs, or would the course also go into, okay, here is how you can create a word-to-vec model, or how to fine-tune specific models? So I'm just trying to understand, because of the audience, like what type of detail will be in the class.
Got it. So the course is not API level, rather from TF-IDF to data collection to building models and using models in real world, deploying our own APIs. So topic modeling, word-to-vec, all these things will be covered from a practical application standpoint. We'll use Streamlit and other things as well. So the short answer is that from TF-IDF to word-to-vec to sentence transformers, that is sentence vectors, to GPT-3, everything is covered and practical applications are built on top of that. If you go to this link, ramsey.aa/NLP, you will see a view curriculum tab, view curriculum button, which you can click and know more. But the short answer is that it's actually an NLP course, not an API course or building app course. So we teach NLP fundamentally starting from TF-IDF and other things. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure. Yeah.
What websites have you used for logo design for your websites?
Okay. So Doric.io, Card, then Bubble. So I also had my previous websites on WordPress, etc. So very familiar with WordPress ecosystem and the actual building with HTML, CSS ecosystem, etc. But low code wise, Softer is one another very useful one, softer.io. But basically, you don't have API integration. So if you want to build things on top of just databases in Airtable, etc., like marketplaces and other things, listing sites, etc., you can build with Softer easily than Bubble, softer.io. Yeah.
What I meant was not low code, logo, website logos.
Oh, website logos. Okay, very sorry.
Yeah.
So there are quite a lot of websites like LogoJoy and others to design logos. But to be very honest, I design my logos in Canva itself. Usually, I don't. Usually with Canva itself, I'm able to achieve what I want. So I don't go and pay because for these logo websites, you need to download. You need to pay $30 or $50, etc., to download in all. Yeah.
Hi, Ram
Thanks.
Siri.
Hello. Yeah. Please mention your name as
Yeah, how
well
are
so
you?
that I can say hi for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, this is me, Mohammed Aslam.
Hi, Mohammed. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So, does this cohort course contains any like basics of large language models like GPT-3 or A21?
Hmm. Uh, yes. So the cohort course only deals with large language model, that is GPT-3. So building up applications on top of GPT-3. So everything to understand GPT-3, which is prompt engineering, how do you give prompts? And once you get good at prompts, how do you convert those prompts into an API? How do you convert that API and integrate into an app? All these things will be covered. So at a language level, only the GPT-3 will be covered in detail. Everything you need to know about GPT-3 and other things. Yeah.
What's the cost of this?
So the cost, it's 19,999 with discount. The original price is 25,000. So 25,000. Currently with discount, it's 20,000 INR.
Oh, 20,000 for 4 weeks course.
4 weeks course,
Hello.
20,000. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, interesting. And I usually work with large language models. Like two use cases is first to convert code to code, which is already in implementation, and one other is text to paint, text to image,
Text to me.
giving the text prompt and getting the paint.
Yeah.
So those are my two. We can do text classification sentiment that as well, but these two are my niche um, work which I am doing currently, and
Got
one of is still, yeah, it is in production, but that is from company side,
Got it.
which I am working now. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think if I join here, I'll get a architecture level and some mathematical level understanding of GPT-3. And recently I fine-tuned the GPT-3 model as well, as per our client's use case. So I have pretty good idea. But if I join the course, I'll get to know how I can make it as a API call and take it to the production level. For my text to paint, I'm thinking
Okay.
of
I will.
taking that text.
I will give a word of caution. A word of caution that do not enroll yet, because from what I see, you need some higher level advanced things. So let's just drop an email to ramsri@question.ai. I want you to enroll into the course only if it delivers value. Looks like you're looking for some advanced stuff. So let us figure out if it is the right one before going there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to. I have the model. The model is running in my Jupyter notebook. I want to make it as a API call and make it as a production ready. So if we connect separately, I think that I can get some value. Where we can collaborate also. But that is very interesting, Ramsey. I like to show that one. If you share your email, that
Yeah.
really helps.
So ramsri@question.ai. I'll just drop it in the chat as well. You can drop me an email and we can figure out what you're trying to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Ramshri. Piyush here.
Hi, Piyush, please go ahead.
I had a question on the scalability of using this low-code apps. So, so does these apps cover, like, if the user base becomes very large? So do they handle all the server management for us, or we have to like actively or semi-actively monitor that?
Good point. So the thing is that it's built for scalability, and how it's built is basically you can get onto the higher enterprise plan where you pay $500 or $1,000 per month, where you have enterprise support and all these things. So you get scalability. The short answer is yes, you can scale to even million users. The thing is that you need to pay more, and you can work with them to kind of get that kind of integration and all those things. But people have built even million user databases and other things and raised money. So it is definitely scalable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else has questions? Please go ahead.
Yes, Ramsey, I have a question.
Yeah.
But before that, talking about your NLP course, so if anyone who is looking to enroll into it, it's not just about the course, but there is also a community wherein you can interact with others, and there are also job opening posts. So I'm doing some marketing from Ramsey because I follow him quite closely on Twitter. Maybe Ramsey, you could elaborate.
Who is this? I can't see the name.
My name is Saurabh.
Hi, Saurabh. Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my question is, let's say if I take the indie hacker approach, right, and I'm not quitting my job, and also I want to keep my cost at bare minimum. So I was looking at the Bubble.io website, and I was looking at the pricing plans. So it seems that there are 25. I mean, if I start with the most basic one, it's about $25 per month, right? And if I have a MRR of 0, then probably it makes little sense to host something on Bubble.io rather than if I can spend 2 or 3 weekends designing the front end and host it on either AWS or Azure. And maybe then try to scale it when I have some revenue coming up, then maybe I can go to Bubble.io. And the other thing is, as far as tracking user analytics, I'm not quite sure if that is also offered with Bubble.io. And there are certain websites which can give me more insights into the user analytics part. So maybe you could shed some light over here.
So the main thing is that Bubble.io has a lot of integration. So you can, for every page, I think you can add your Google Analytics ID and all those Facebook pixel things, etc., to get more stats. So I think those integrations are possible. And coming to your other thing about $25 plan or $29 plan. So what typically happens is that even if you use like a database on AWS and other things, or just host an app, hosting an app itself, even if you use like a full stack, if you're a full stack developer and use Vercel or something like that, the short thing is that everything costs money. I mean, unless you use very low fidelity apps where high availability is not needed. Unless you need that, if you're building any production app, it costs money. Maybe not $29 immediately, but maybe $5 or $10 for hosting and other things, databases, etc. And slowly it scales, right? What Bubble gives is that, okay, it starts at sorry, $29. But all those things are also included here, where databases and other things will cost money for you, right? So that's my thought process, where as an indie hacker, I mean, even if I have like a front-end developer, I need to pay 10,000 rupees or something like that. So instead of that, me learning Bubble and paying them $30 or something like that is not that bad. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, it's worth trying Bubble first. And also I want to ask, is there a locking mechanism. I mean, let's say if there is some other website that comes in tomorrow, and I want to migrate my app from bubble.io to that particular new provider. So what do you think?
The thing is that Bubble does not give you a direct export, but your data, databases, etc., you need to do some migrations. Basically, if you are smart enough, you can figure out some migrations to be able to do that. There are companies that have done that, where beyond a certain point, they move out of Bubble to their own self-built website, like regular coding, etc., some of them. But the short thing is that Bubble does not give one-click export or other things. You need to figure out things, how to migrate data, how to let users sign up, etc. The other thing that I would suggest if you're a developer is basically use Bubble for front end and back end can be handled by things like Supabase, etc., which are like Firebase alternatives. So if you use Bubble as only a front end piece, then you can switch easily. Your switching costs are lower. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm asking these questions because I also plan to release a couple of APIs, but they would be CV based and not NLP. So
Got it.
just those questions. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Hey, Ramshri, so so basically when you are storing user data and maybe other data as well, like when user is like inputting some data through APIs, right?
Yeah.
Can you store it in your own like servers, or it like Bubble provides servers itself?
So currently it's stored in Bubble's servers itself. I mean, at the end of the day, Bubble is basically built on AWS itself. But instead of you managing your AWS account and all those things, Bubble stores your data, all the user data, logins and other things with AWS infrastructure itself. Like I said, if you want to circumvent that, what you can do is use Bubble as only front end, and all your databases, etc., you can use Supabase or Firebase or any other thing and store all your data via the API calls through Bubble, so that your data does not live on Bubble at all. It lives outside anywhere where you want. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask.
Hi, Ramsri. My name is Wahab.
Hi, Wahab.
My question is also related to the last questions. What if we want to deploy our app or our application on servers which you already own?
Okay.
What's the procedure then?
Then I think basically you need to create microservices on your servers and expose them via APIs, REST API or some other way, and then just talk from Bubble to your microservices through the REST APIs, and all the data exchange and all these things happen via that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Please go ahead. Yeah. Anyone else has any questions about micro SaaS in general? Even please go ahead.
Rameshri, this is Indrajit again. One question. For Bubble, right? If we have to like do something like, let's say, speech to text kind of application, can we deploy those as well there?
Good question. So I've seen people using speech to text as well, where you can upload files, any files, and that could be speech files. And those files could be, directly you can store them in S3 and trigger any transcription jobs or other things, and get the text data, that is the speech to text data, and then you can display it on the front end. There is a YouTube channel called as Nocode AI apps or something like that, which discusses quite a lot of things on Bubble meets AI, so computer vision, NLP, all these things. but technically you can do that. That's the short answer. You can upload files and those files will go there. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey Ramsey, my last question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So basically, generally when you have a regular front-end code base, right? If you add some more members to the team, it is easy for them to work on that, right?
Yes.
But here in Bubble, when you are creating workflows, right, you are learning some anecdotal things, right? So when bringing on new team members might be difficult. You have to do a lot of KT, right?
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like for example, if this app scales, right, then it might become a problem.
Interesting question. So what happens is that Bubble actually has, if you see here at the drop down, Bubble actually has development version, there's live version, and you can create another version. It's almost like you can create your it's like GitHub, what are they called? I mean, the versions where you create branches and then you integrate and do pull requests and all those things, right? Similarly, you can do that with Bubble as well. KT wise, I mean, for me, I have not encountered much of a problem because I gave my app to a developer and he did not ask me anything about the backend workflows and all those things. He was able to just figure it out and then make changes appropriately. It's almost like just like your code, maybe some smart developer is able to just skim through the code, understand what it does and make changes. So, I mean, if no documentation is available. Similarly, I think workflows are something like that. And you don't really, I would not worry too much on the KT. And these Bubble apps are such that you don't need tens of developers like in real app to work on these. Maybe one or two smart developers should be able to handle most of the logic, even if it's complex workflows, because they can be separated in multiple pages and each page can handle things separately. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Got it.
Hi, Ramshri.
Hello. Yeah.
I am Rabneet, and thanks a lot for this amazing session. I just want to add things. I don't have actually a question. I just want to add a few things to last question.
Sure.
So, what people usually do before coding is they prepare a GUI and a UI guide. So it was to the last, adding just to the last question. If you prepare a UI guide before like starting the like working with Bubble, it will be much easier to prepare for you and to give a KT to anyone. You just give him the UI guide. And there's a difference between UI and GUI guide. GUI guide is like how your button and what's the size of this. UI guide is like what button will do, how next page will open and what will do. So if you prepare a UI guide, like you invest a small time on UI, like planning everything before, then you don't need to worry much about KT and other things, even for you and if any new people join in. So just adding things. And that was an amazing session.
Great point. Great. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so soon I think very great point. So soon people will realize that the other things, that is infrastructure things of taking care of how everything needs to be structured, all those things remain the same even when we're building in Bubble. So all those things will come in handy for knowledge transfer and other things as well. Yes. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah. Hi, Ramsri. Vishal this side.
Hi, Vishal.
So my question is related to the deployment of custom AI models. So basically, people use different frameworks, Flask, Fast APIs, and there are so many other frameworks available. So what do you suggest would be the best that that most of the people use, and that is a good framework in terms of serving REST APIs, and that is scalable as well?
Sure, sure. So I think when it comes to NLP APIs, the complexities are lesser when compared to other APIs, let's say even computer vision APIs. Then you have so many options, like how do you read the input image? is it byte string, or you have an image URL, and all these complexities arise. So when it comes to NLP APIs, I think the API part is usually text in and the output is text out. So apart from parameter validations, so no other too many complexities. And Fast API works pretty well. Like I've deployed most of my APIs with Fast API, and it's fast and easy to use and has all the type checking things, etc. So usually Fast API, Dockerizing that and deploying that on Google Cloud Run, that's been my go-to flow. That works well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, this is Ramesh. I have a question on this. On this course. So I'm just trying to. I've done some NLP, but obviously not enough. But in this course, are we learning the APIs, like for example, like GenSim or HuggingFace transformers, and then building something like I saw your syllabus end to end, or is it someone expected to know enough so that you can actually do things outside of the course, like outside of what is covered?
Okay. So I think the course has very so it does not deal too much about using APIs and building things, because I think it's a practical intro to NLP course. So the NLP fundamentals part is also important, but at the same time, our fundamentals are taught in such a way that if you want to deliver some practical project, how do you use all the technologies, techniques that are available in NLP? So simply put, you should be able to answer at the end of the course, like when to use sentence transformers, what are the shortcomings, when to use word to vec, when to use TF-IDF based things and build on top of that, or when to use GPT-3 versus other model, etc., and build on top of that. And how it is structured is that, again, boring with theory is not something that I don't really enjoy myself. So how I have designed it is that you understand what to work on a high level, how it is, train, what is the input data, output data, what are the popular word to work models. That part is solid. Then comes the applications of word to vector, applications of sentence transformers, how you build semantic search applications with sentence transformers, what are the shortcomings. Similarly, how to use text generation with GPT, OpenAI's GPT-3, and then build on top of that. There is a very central theme to the course, which is from start to end, we'll build a product that is a movie product. For example, a movie company is building a search system for them, or building an NLP product on top of their movies to be able to find similar movies, sort, and all these things easily. What are the features needed? We'll learn each NLP technique and add it as a feature for the movie product that is built in Streamlit with some front end and all these things. So it's more like a product based learning, and at the same time it is a practical intro to NLP course. So transformers, etc., all those application side will be discussed where things come in, but no theory as such will be discussed. Yeah, that's on a high level, but happy to answer any deeper questions you have if you just email or want to get on a call as well. Ramsri@question.ai. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone else has any questions? Please go ahead. Even if it is related to micro SaaS, other things like marketing or exits or even conflicts between founders, anything, it could be in the micro SaaS zone. Please go ahead and ask. Yeah.
I have a question, Ramsri. Saurabh here. So,
hi, Saurabh, please.
Yeah, I want to know, let's say if I were to release NLP API, right? Will it lead to any conflict of interest? I mean, with the company that I'm working on. So what are the legal things that I need to be careful about or should there be an agreement or the non-compete clause basically? So how can I deal with it, or what are the general guidelines?
The short answer is that companies reserve the right to sue you if they really want to, unless you get a written agreement from them. So always I would say, if you're releasing an API and monetizing it, or if you're releasing an app and monetizing it, unless if you're let's say if you're a product manager working for something else, then you release an NLP API, then no conflicts that are overlapping. But other than that, if you're an NLP developer doing something, and even if you're a chatbot developer, but you release a GPT-3 app or some other, semantic search thing, I would definitely say check with your manager first to see whether that's possible, and if possible, get a written permission or email exchange at least for your notice. The simple thing is that companies hold too much power to go against you if things don't work well. So it is better to be safe than sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? I always say I promise to answer every single question of yours. That's why I make sure that I wait till the end, answer every question and leave. Awesome. We had a good packed session. I think maybe like 70 to 80 or 90 people showed up at various times. At various times, if you count various times, I think 100 people in total dropping in and off. Pretty good turnout, decent, yeah. Awesome. Any other questions, or even if it's not a question, just anything you want to say before you leave, please do as well.
Yeah, Ramshi, thank you for this wonderful session.
Absolutely.
Learned a lot.
Awesome, awesome. So I was just curious in the sense that I showed Bubble.io for the first time, right? So was it easy to follow with the flow, because live demo to somebody, I'm doing it for the first time. So I wasn't I wasn't sure whether the path that I'm showing to them, is it easy to follow, or are they missing? That I was curious in the middle to know that.
Yeah, it was easy to follow, especially because you repeated those steps, and also the fact that you would be like uploading this on YouTube, so we can like go back and do this. So yeah, it was like, at least for me, I was able to follow what you did.
Great. Thanks for that. Awesome. Yes, the video recording will be available, and I'll send a mail to everyone who registered as well. I'll just edit the before and after parts, whichever is unnecessary. But other than that, you can follow the video recording and do everything. I'll quickly answer the questions that I had, which was, can you integrate Razorpay, etc.? The answer is yes. You can integrate via APIs. Anything that you can do with front-end apps and other full stack apps, you can do. That's the short answer. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand, do you provide only courses, or do you also help in the API and app development?
By API and app development, I mean, are you talking in terms of
or the micro SaaS, let's say the app itself, like what you just showed? If there is a complicated requirement, do you have teams which help in development of those apps?
Correct. Okay. The short answer is that I am not a pro bubbler at all. So there are people who will do better who have better bubble skills than me. I just know enough to get by for my app. If someone wants me to do for their app, then I need to learn. The only thing is that it's not a learning path for me that is on the high ROI for me, right? For me, it's more about building NLP and just putting up a front end and doing things. The short answer is that I don't have a team. And the second thing is Bubble apps is not my strength. But if you're talking about NLP and other things, sure, I think I can help out. But on the Bubble app front, I would rather look for Bubble freelancers. I don't think I'm that expert to build any kind of app. Yeah.
All right, sure. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone else has any questions? Please go ahead.
Actually, did you have any training on Bubble, like any paid training, or did you follow any tutorials?
Yes, the answer is two things. One is, first I started with a Udemy course on Bubble that I got for like $10, etc. Then I realized that there are some things that are not taught in the course because not every expert is making a course. So what I did was I enrolled into a $300 weekend course by Build Camp. You can just look them up. Build Camp, BUILD Camp. So the instructor is Gregory John. He teaches very well. So and over weekend. So for me, the main thing was this. It's not for me to learn Bubble really well, but I need to really understand what Bubble can do. It's not necessary for me that I can do that. I just need to know that databases are stored this way. Like privacy can be handled like this. These complex things can be built this. Because I am making a very conscious choice of taking plunge into Bubble and building question.ai, right? So it does not matter for me, even I cannot implement something in Bubble. I can go and find a freelancer and make him or her do that in Bubble. For me, it's more about knowing the possibilities. So it's more about width than depth. So breadth was important for me to understand what Bubble can do. And the paid course, the weekend course helped quite a lot in understanding the breadth, what all can be possible and what all complexities can be handled with Bubble. Yeah. Cool. Does that answer your question? I don't think we can hear you, but
yes, Ramshi.
Okay.
Also, just one more question. Like, what is the total cost that you have spent on launching a question till now? Like,
I would say somewhere between around $5,000 and is what I've spent. Either it is learning Bubble or getting some freelance help for some complex things. But overall around $5,000, and question has running costs. So what you just saw where you paste in text and get some MCQs, that runs on GPU. Because if you run it on CPU, it takes 25 to 30 seconds. And I was not happy to provide that kind of user experience. So I wanted to run on GPU. So question has running costs, which is GPU costs, hosted GPU cost every month around $400. So apart from 5,000, there's a recurring $400 cost for me that's ongoing. But I do have B2B clients. So $200 is my MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So I'm net negative 200, but I do have 10 other signups who paid B2C plans. So probably $500, $600 total revenue from there. Overall, it's not profitable SaaS yet, but my goal is to get it to a certain MRR and probably raise funding or go big. But right now I can sustain it with my freelancing and other tasks. So I'm doing it this way. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ramshri. It was a really good. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Awesome. Anyone else has any? How does a non-techie get started? Vishwa asks. So Bubble is for non-techies. And if you go and see the top bubblers out there, they are not actually programmers at all. Some people have transitioned into Bubble from even like general product managers or CEOs or even regular people who were doing artists, etc. also transitioned into Bubble developers. So it is not just for techies, yeah. And I'm just going through if there are any questions on the chat. But other than that, please feel free to unmute and ask if you have any questions or even closing thoughts. Great. I think we answered all the things in the chat. So is plugin paid? So few plugins are paid and other plugins are not paid. How does, okay, Vishwa says thanks, awesome. Cool. We'll just wait for 30 seconds more. If anyone has any questions, we'll answer, or else we can wrap up the session. But if you stayed for 2 hours, we have 14 participants on the call even after 2 hours. So thank you very much. I absolutely respect your time and thanks a lot for staying through. And 2 hours of talk and staying through isn't easy on a Saturday dedicating time. So I do definitely appreciate all of you. All those I can see here, Sam, Dolly, Samar, Piyush, Priya, and Deepak, Pratik, Saurav, Vishal, thanks a lot. Awesome. I don't think we have any questions. So if you have anything to say it in the chat. Other than that, awesome. Thanks, Piyush. Thanks for staying through as well. We are almost closing in 30 seconds. If you have anything to say, you can say it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll take leave. Awesome. Thanks, Saurabh. Cool. I think we are good to wrap up. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Saturday and spending time. I'll see you soon with another talk. So for last people who are there, there'll be another talk on AI freelancing in 4 days. Wednesday, I'll probably host it. So you are the first ones to know it. Great. You have something ahead of time. Awesome. Okay, then. Bye. Take care, everyone. Bye. I'll send the link to everyone. Soon I'll announce it. Yeah. Bye, everyone.